Yo, what's good guys? Today I'm going to show you some designs that I did for Kairo Keyz a while back. I saw he put on his Insta that he was looking for graphic designers or people who did merch designs, so I just gave him a message and that was that. So the quick and short of it is just that he wanted designs based off of certain lyrics of certain songs that he's done. The two being Gang and Makchi. There were three choices of the lyrics that you could pick from and I just chose these two. The first lyric that you could pick from was I showed them love and they showed man hate. Or I showed them love and I showed man hate these days that is expected, which was way too long. I didn't pick that one, I just picked the short version. And the third one was I'm the op that everyone wants. I'll show from least favourite to my most favourite. My least favourite one was the one that I did for I'm the Op. I'm just gonna call it that one because the lyric is a bit long. I did it like a Scarface design. A lot of the pictures that I found from Kairo Keyz' Insta were kind of samey when it came to looking for cutouts, which I'll explain in my second design. It wasn't really working out because he was kind of just doing the same thing. Obviously, he's not a model. This was my favourite cutout of his. I'll put the original up so you can see it. Yeah, this pic was called. I couldn't get the exact Scarface font. It might be licensed. I made sure for all these designs, just in case I got picked, I picked fonts that I had permission to use because I don't want to pick an amazing font and then have to get the rights to use it and get sued and all that. I just picked loads of fonts that were from Google Fonts. It's not under the radar by any means, but the font selection on there was quite good. The header font for Kairo Keyz is Libre Baskerville in bold. For the bottom font, I used Baskerville Oldface. In the same sort of family of being in the Baskerville family, but they were different enough to where they didn't appear samey, which is what I wanted. So they could both stand out in their own ways. This is my least favorite design because even though it's based off of Scarface, and people do get the reference, I think the image could be a lot stronger. If I was with him for like 30 minutes doing a photo shoot, I could already envision a way better picture because the picture for the middle bit makes up the whole design in my opinion. That's what makes the Scarface one iconic. In my opinion, the main subject, the black and white with the red text, is very iconic in itself in the original design. The photographer did his thing there. Threshold might be every streetwear graphic designer's favourite filter because it just does wonders in making what's considered now your contemporary streetwear sort of designs. A lot of streetwear designs nowadays use a mixture of your pop prints and your threshold sort of templates. I just wanted to use contemporary sort of stuff when it came to how fashion design is going right now with streetwear, because with the designs that I made for him, I took into consideration how he dresses himself, and I noticed that a lot of the clothing he wears on Insta, it's not overly branded. You can see on his YouTube icon, it's the Gucci jumper. That's as most as he'll go for overly branded stuff. So in the pic he wore the L-Boy shirt, but he's not big on logo mania stuff. If you ever see him do a clothing collab with Represent or Cole Buxton, you heard it from me first, because I think those are the sort of brands in terms of how they make their own designs. They kind of fit together in how he styles himself. If you look closely it's Represent, but if you don't it's kind of muted sort of thing. But he did get the collab with Adidas, so I might be wrong there. I tried to make it a little bit interactive by having the K appear like here, but I think that might have ruined it just slightly because not everyone's going to know who Kairo Keyz is. It might have been better to put a text in front of him rather than behind. I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know. The second one, I did a vintage rapper tee. Again, I used Showed Them Love, but the shorter version here. Here's the thing, when you use loads of text in designs, it's going to taint how you make the full thing. That's what people don't always consider. I'm not going to go into it too much, but when I did presentation designs, people would sometimes, you need to convey the information that you want to say, but that does impact how the design is going to look in the final thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's what it is. You have a lot less room to mess around with layout, and the way you interact with layout and hierarchy and all of that, it's all going to change. So that's why I opted for the shorter ones, because that allowed a lot more room for visuals to be incorporated in. For the second one, the idea just came to me to use loads of cutouts and just see what I can do with it, because I already had the vision of doing this sort of vintage rapper tees that you kind of see from back in the 90s and early 2000s, where there's loads of cutouts and you put them together to make a good composition. It's not even just for rappers, sometimes people do this for athletes. It's quite a common style. When it came to picking the cutouts, as I was saying before, I tried to give a lot of thought into the ones that I was going to choose for the final product, because as I was saying in the beginning, when it came to the sort of pictures I was finding on Google and Insta, they were kind of samey. So when it came to doing this design, I just wanted a nice variety. So some were close up, some weren't. You can see on the full thing. I wasn't really sure on this one in terms of the middle one, because I think I reversed or flipped it. I could have edited here where the Ortiz logo would have been the other way around, so then it's the right way around, but that's a little attention to detail that I don't think people would have picked up on until I said it. Maybe Clint would have if you watched it, but just kind of ignored that there. But with everything else, yeah, as I was saying here, he got the Adidas collab or sponsorship. Use the gradient here just to give the text some space so it sits by itself. Oh, one thing I remembered. A lot of the pictures, he was facing one way. That's why I ended up flipping the main image of him in a Keyz jacket. I flipped it the other way because in a lot of the pictures, he's looking towards the left. So a little thing like that I had to take into consideration, because even if you're not a designer or anything like that, if you saw the shirt, you might have picked up on, oh yeah, he's just looking at the left in all these images. Maybe someone would have picked it up. Just little things like that. That's why I flipped it over. I did want to add some 3D text to it, but Photoshop, I'm not really well versed in using the 3D tools there. And I don't have Cinema 4D currently, and I don't know how to use Blender. I know there is a quick workaround to making 3D text, but I only had 2 days to do this. I wanted to give as many designs as I could that were of good quality. The guy who I messaged for this said you can make as many as you want, so I wanted the designs to be strong. I could have put another picture of him in a circle here towards the bottom right, but it would have taken away from the text at the bottom, so I didn't add it in the end. I wanted each layer to take its own space. This is my second-ish favourite. It's a tie between this one and the last one I'm about to show you. They both have their own strengths in my opinion. You've got the final design here. As I mentioned at the beginning, he wears a lot of minimal designs. The kind of clothing choices he wears on Insta, at least in public, I kind of went with a minimal sort of design for this one. So I used the old threshold tool again, which worked wonders on this one in my opinion. So the font up here is Onda, which I really like. Some people could argue that maybe the K wasn't very good on this font, but I liked it enough, and I think it gets the point across that it is a K and not a V, or a sort of Russian sort of letter. So I think it does the job, but I do think the K on this font could be better. Just that's the only thing I didn't like about this design in my opinion. And also this part, I wanted it to be a little bit personable in terms of how the design looked, because he doesn't have a strong visual identity in my opinion. When it came to picking sort of icons and elements of a design, that was quite tough to do. So that's why I was picking things like the Gengar thing, because one of his posts when he was celebrating with his plaques, he had a Gengar toy. So I immediately picked out and looked at the design and said, yo, let me add this Gengar. Pound sign, can't go wrong with that one. Rappers the money, it's like honey and bees, you know what I'm saying? I would have changed the Norwood thing though, because I just didn't know what to put for the third one. I'm putting 2 in, made the design feel a little bit empty. I just knew I was missing something for the third one. So instead, it would have just been easy to add a music icon. But again, I only had 2 days to do this, and I was doing something else. Putting a CD icon just makes a lot more sense, in my opinion. And plus, when you think about it, having a Norwood Junction icon might not have boded well for wearing this around London, so the CD icon just makes a lot more sense. There's threshold on every single layer just to give the text a little bit of something else. It's not going to be super obvious because I didn't use any effect. To make the effect a lot less subtle, I could have used some ink fill effects or something, but it shows out a lot more on here with the background and the cutout here. The cutout here is just a sky, but it worked out really well. It's just a blue sky with some clouds. In my opinion, I like the graphic for it. It's not like Broken Planet, but I kind of went for that sort of minimalism. I think this could work really strong if this was at the back of a shirt or even the front. Those are the 3 designs that I did. I usually don't do spec work, so if you're going to ask me to do spec work, the answer is no. On this occasion, I did it because I was kind of in a rut creatively, so I needed something to just pick me back up mentally. But I quite enjoyed it because there was a short deadline to it. And doing fashion design is a lot more different than doing graphic design because you're not supposed to fill everything in. Same thing with graphic design. Things have to have an intention and a reason to be on a page or on a layout, and you just can't be there for no reason. The same thing with clothing. You can't overcomplicate it and put an overly complex design in a lot of instances because it's something wearable that people want to be proud that they're wearing. Kind of like how you see people wear Nike or Adidas or any sort of brand. They're proud to almost rep it in a certain way. When you approach fashion design, coming from graphic design, there's a lot of similarities. That's why you see a lot of graphic designers end up making a clothing brand, just because it has a higher ceiling in terms of scalability than graphic design by itself. And graphic design, in my opinion, is kind of like how big YouTubers treat YouTube. So graphic design and YouTube is the home spot, but then because you know the skills of how to do this, it allows you to branch into 10 to 20 different things. And I think they both have those sort of parallels. And it's probably why I stuck with graphic design for so long, because even if you don't want to do it anymore, it's not too complicated to jump into a different venture that's still creative. I do have a few clothing designs coming on the way that I hope I can get to show you at some point this year. So do stay tuned for those. If you guys learned anything from this video, do let me know. And please do give a like, and I'll see you next time.